Yo, what's up, everybody? Swillow here, and today I'm going to be doing a game overview for Babylon's Fall. So I paid $100 so that I could get the early access on PS5. If you purchase the digital deluxe edition on the PS5 right now, I think it's on PC as well. You get to play the game like 3 days early. So I did that, and I'm going to pretty much explain why I felt like making that investment was worthwhile for me, what I'm enjoying about the game. I'm also going to talk about my opinion on some of the popular discourse topics this game has. There's a lot of complaints and a lot of overall this game actually just has like so much bad stuff being said about it. So, and a lot of the stuff that's being said about the game is actually pretty true, but I think at the end of the day it just comes down to like, is the game actually fun to play? That's how it is for me, at least. That's pretty much why I decided to actually purchase this game after playing the demo. So let's get right into this. I'm actually going to do this overview a little different from how I normally do overviews. I'm actually going to pull up my trusty program here so that I can actually just write everything out. I feel like if I write everything out, it just becomes, the discussion becomes easier to manage and go back to. So basically, is this game worth it? Is it worth it? So first off, let's talk about the pros and the cons. We got pros, we have cons. Let's do the cons first, actually, because I just feel like that's easier to get that stuff out of the way before I get into the pros. So basically, cons, the visual, the production values are weak. Production values are weak. So this game just does not look like what you would expect from Platinum. This is a game made by Platinum Games, you know, the creators of Bayonetta, crazy games like Anarchy Reigns, Nier Automata, all kinds of crazy games. Like, they're known for their visuals. You know, think about games like Metal Gear Rising and how that game constantly trends every so often because of its crazy production values. And this game is just devoid of all of that personality that Platinum Games normally have. This game's also published by Square Enix, which makes this even more ironic because Square Enix is also one of the companies in Japan that is known for their aesthetic and their production values. So a Square Enix produced game developed by Platinum Games that just basically feels like it has the most generic looking production values imaginable is some weird irony. I will say that the game isn't like terrible. I've definitely seen worse, but the game just doesn't impress considering the developer and the publisher behind it. Story is weak as well. Story is weak. I will say, first of all, this is a live service game. I honestly never played a live service game for the story. I don't really care if the story's good or not. So this is something that's going to just really depend on why you're playing the game. For me, I just feel like a story can never be good in a live service game. I've never seen it, at least for me personally. I don't. The story is weak though. I will say the story like is so dragged out. I would say the concepts of the story and the lore behind the world and stuff seems interesting, but the way the story is presented to you, the way the dialogue drags, it's just so bad. It's a weak story. Um, Honestly, those are like the two major cons. All the other cons that I can think of start to get into a little like more objective territory. Like, for instance, it's a live service game. So here's a con. Live service game. So here's the thing. Some people just don't like live service games. You know, like some people don't like mobile games. Some people don't like certain types of games. So basically, if you don't like live service games, this can be considered a con. Me in general, I don't like live service games. I make an exception when the gameplay is good enough. So this being a live service game can be considered a con depending on your outlook. But that's, like I said, this is like a more objective type of con because there's a lot of live service games. There's a lot of live service games that are highly regarded. Um, it's a weird thing to say as a con, but it can be a con, especially in this game's case, because a lot of people didn't think this was going to be a live service game at first. So I think that's what really throws this game off, is because a lot of people were not really thinking this was going to be a live service game. Other cons. Let me see what I can think of. This is kind of with the production values, but this kind of lines up with the production values, but the microtransaction content seems really underwhelming right now. Microtransactions are underwhelming. So I really can't see myself like spending money on any of the stuff they currently have. It's just like this armor sets are really weak visually, and this kind of lines up with the production values. Like I said, this game just isn't that impressive production value wise, so this goes into the armor design, and the microtransactions are currently pretty underwhelming because of that, because since the game just doesn't look that good as a whole, why would you want to spend money on ugly outfits? That's about it. I might come back to the cons later, but that's like the main stuff I can think of. So let's talk about pros. Pros, gameplay. The gameplay is nice. It's made by Platinum Games, dude, and you can tell when you're playing the game that it's made by Platinum. It's got the sauce. Now there is some controversy with some elements of the gameplay. For one, let's make a third category. Let's make a third category. I don't know what I want to call it though. All right, let's just go back to cons. I'll just keep it cons. I'm not gonna get too crazy here. But our next category is gonna be, all right. In the cons, we're gonna talk about this is one of the controversial topics. No stagger, limited stagger. This is the more proper way to say it. Some people are saying the game has no stagger, no combos at all. This isn't really true. It's just that not every attack staggers. Only certain attacks stagger, like rising attacks launch the enemy, slam attacks can smash an enemy into the ground, finishers or charge attacks. Certain attacks can either like launch enemies, knock them into the ground, or blow them back. But not just general weak attacks don't stagger the enemy. Some people are listing this as a con. So this can be like, it really depends from player to player. I think the reason that they chose to do this is because it's a 4-player game. It's a 4-player game, and you're playing as a character in a Platinum game. So think about like if you had 4 Bayonettas running around. What can challenge 4 Bayonettas? Nothing can. So I think this was like one of the things they did just to give the enemies any sort of fighting chance. You can already overwhelm the enemies in this game. Like if you're good at character action games, if you're good at Platinum games, like you're gonna dominate enemies in this game. You're gonna juggle them endlessly. You're gonna stagger them. You're just gonna be dodging attacks, and you're just gonna destroy enemies. So this game really rewards people who are good at character action games. So I think when they decided to remove stagger from, like, if you saw the first trailer this game had, there was stagger on like pretty much every attack. The reason I feel like they decided to remove that is because they were like, yo, this game's going to be way, way, way too easy and mashy if it's just so easy to stagger enemies with 4 players running around with like Bayonetta tier character. I mean, I wouldn't say the character you control here is necessarily completely on the level of like Bayonetta, but the character here is pretty strong. You have a lot of strong possibilities. It's a character from a Platinum game, so you know how it is. So I'll put this under the cons though, because people are using this as a con. It personally for me is just kind of whatever. I understand why they made the decision, but it all comes down to what you think is fun in a game or not. You can still, for me, I've still found like infinite juggle combos and stuff like that. You just have to be smart in how you use the moves that can stagger enemies. So gameplay. Instead of just saying gameplay, let's break it down. Level design. So the level design here is actually kind of nice. Some people might consider this a con, but when you play live service games, Usually the levels are pretty hollow. It's just you running from one battle to the next battle with a pretty bland corridor. Maybe sometimes they'll have like very light platforming, but it's usually pretty weak. The level design here is kind of cool because there's like a platforming and puzzle solving in between each segment, and even some stages sort of have like environmental effects, like you'll be underwater where you're moving slower, or you're sliding across ice, or there's like invisible floors and stuff like that. So there's all this stuff here that really makes the navigating the level a bit more engaging and stimulating. Now, some people who are just like, I just want to fight and fight, they might be annoyed by this level design, but I think it's good. And I think it's especially good because it's designed in a way to just flow if you're good at it. So basically, this is like with the combat as well. But if you're good at this game, you're going to see it visually. Like everything's just going to flow smooth and effectively, and it's just going to look good. So I enjoyed the level design here because it's engaging enough to make you think a little bit more than just running from point A to point B. And, you know, it's like if you're good at it, it's not like it's going to be a hindrance to the experience. If you're bad at it, then it can be a little annoying to navigate. Next up, we have combat. So this is it. This is the definitive thing. In a game like this, where you're going to be playing for hours and hours and hours and grinding and grinding and grinding, the combat's got to be good, right? That's the main thing. That's like the whole enchilada right there. That's the most important factor of a game like this, in my opinion. And the combat is just really good. Now, once again, there's some people are saying there's certain cons to the combat because of things like this. No stagger, limited stagger. But overall, the combat to me is really good. It's Platinum game level combat. You can see it if you play the game. If you're familiar with Platinum games, you're going to see little pieces of it everywhere. You're going to see little pieces from Bayonetta. You're going to see pieces from Astral Chain. You're going to see pieces from Nier. You're just going to see pieces of Platinum all throughout this game. And especially when it comes to like the spectral weapon mechanic, it's just super satisfying to use, and the game just has like a generally good flow to it that I've just really been enjoying. So the combat is a huge pro. It's the main reason that I bought this game. It's the main reason I spent $100 early to get the pre-release. Is the main reason why I'm gonna hype this game up, because the combat is good. To me, I think the combat's great. In terms of live service games, this is easily my favorite combat ever, or it's like in the top 3. I can't think of any live service game I've played off the top of my head where I've liked the combat more, because this is basically giving me the combat that I'm used to having in like my favorite single player games, except in a live service format. So I dig it. This for me is the best combat easily in a live service game. There's lots of depth, and I was mentioning this earlier, but if you're good at this game, you'll see it. If you're bad at this game, it lets you know. So this is gonna actually bring me up to another pro, is the difficulty, or the, I don't know. I don't necessarily know what other word I can say for this, because it's not necessarily difficulty in the sense that the game is hard. I don't think the game is like hard as in you're gonna get a lot of game overs, but the game has sort of like if you think about a game like Devil May Cry or Platinum games, when you play Devil May Cry, for instance, it's not just about completing the level, right? You want to complete the level of style. You want to get a high style rating. You want to look good while you're doing it. Like anybody can just complete a stage in Devil May Cry, right? But what really matters is completing the stage in style. So that's kind of like the kind of energy this game has. You can complete any stage in this game, probably no problem, but can you actually do it and look good doing it? You know, can you get that pure platinum rating on every battle segment? Can you just smoothly navigate the combat and just feel good? Because the way the combat is designed in this game is, if you are bad at it, the game lets you know. Because when you get hit in this game and you get knocked down, your character is going to be laying on the ground for like 3 or more seconds at a time. It's actually like so painful. It's so painful to watch your character get knocked down, and it's like a mental defeat. It really like it's taking a mental blow whenever you get hit in this game because the punishment for getting hit. You may not take a lot of damage HP wise, but it's a mental blow because your character is going to be knocked out. You're going to be on the ground for a long time. You don't want to get hit. Like you want to do everything in your power to not get hit in this game because the punishment for getting hit is just hardcore in terms of mental. Not so much in the game and taking damage, but it's a mental blow. So I really like the way this game is designed because it's a game where you want to play well. And when you're playing well, you can see that you're playing well. Like when you're playing well, you're going to be like beast mode in this game. You're going to be blowing through everything. You're just going to be looking slick and smooth. And if you're playing bad, sorry, I was getting logged out of the game. I know you guys can't even see the actual game right now, but I'm looking at the screen. But yeah, like I was saying, like when you're playing this game well, you can see it, you can feel it. And when you're playing the game poorly, you can see it, you can feel it. It's like other games like Souls games, right? If you think about like Dark Souls, if you think about games like Monster Hunter, these are all games in that same sort of line. If you're playing a Souls game bad, you know it. You're going to feel it. That game's going to let you know that you're not playing good. And if you're playing those games good, you can feel it. If you're good at Monster Hunter, like it's one of the best feelings ever. So this game kind of has that same sort of energy, I feel, is that if you're playing the game well, you can see it, you can feel it. And if you're playing the game poorly, you can see it and you can feel it. And I will say in the pros, the roadmap. So this is an interesting pro, but the roadmap for the game looks pretty promising already. Normally for these live service games, we don't even have roadmaps at launch, or we don't have very detailed roadmaps, but this game actually has a pretty detailed roadmap already. So, and looking at the content that the roadmap offers, it actually looks really interesting. Let me put content roadmap so that makes more sense. Just saying roadmap is a little weird. But yeah, the content roadmap for this game actually looks promising. Within a month, we're going to get a new weapon. So a new weapon in a game like this is going to be cool because the combat's good and interesting. So any new weapon they add is going to instantly just like be a cool new thing for this game. They have new game modes, a couple new game modes coming. They have like 4 game modes total that they've talked about that are going to be added over the course of this year. So we're getting new game modes, we're getting new weapons, we're getting cool events like the collab event with Nier. They're going to add new mechanics, new customization mechanics, stuff like that. So the content roadmap for this game actually looks really good so far. It's pretty detailed, and all of the content sounds like it's going to be fun from what we have so far. So here's another category I'm going to make is I don't know. So basically, this is stuff that I can't even answer yet because this is a live service game, and these are questions that have to be answered over time. So first, is this going to be a good live service game? Is this going to be a good live service game? This is something we will only be able to tell with time. We cannot tell that right now. Are you going to want to come back to this game every day, every week, every month? I don't know. That's hard to say. Right now, like I said, the content roadmap looks interesting, but I haven't hit endgame yet. I'm not sure how interesting the endgame grind is, and I'm not sure how much stuff they have planned after the current content roadmap. Is the current content roadmap more dense than what we're going to get later? Because I could see, especially if this game doesn't perform well. This is especially going to be a factor if the game doesn't perform well. So if this game performs poorly, then we're probably going to be in a situation where the next content roadmap is not going to be looking as generous and flavorful as the current one, right? So this is like a This is like a really hard question to answer right now because the game's getting such a bad reception, which means the sales could be poor, which means that this game might, the budget might get cut to a degree, and we may not get as much content as we could get. So this is all stuff that I can't really answer. How is this going to be a good live service game? Next up, I was already mentioned this earlier, in-game grind. Is the in-game grind going to be interesting? I can't answer this yet. I haven't beat the game. Also, I feel like it's just too early. This is something that maybe after a week I might be able to give an idea of, but these are all questions that for a game like this you need time to answer. What else? To be honest, I think these first two things are like kind of covering all the bases, especially the first thing. Is this going to be, the question is, this is a live service game. Is it going to deliver on that part? Are they going to have interesting updates? Is the game going to be engaging to play for a long period of time? Like, does this game, like the thing is, I'm going to enjoy this game now for like a week or so, but am I going to keep playing this game a month later, 2 months later, 3 months later? I can't answer that. But yeah, this is basically it. Is it worth it? Basically, for me, it's worth it for the combat. I think the combat is fun, and I enjoy the level design as well. Like, the overall gameplay package makes it worth it. If you're here for more than just like a combat loop, then you may be disappointed. The production values are kind of lackluster. The story sucks. It's an online server-based game, so you have to be connected online. The game really kind of wants you to play multiplayer. I've been playing a lot of missions solo just because there's not a lot of people to play with, so I've been forced to play solo just because I can't even find players as far as I am. So even though the game, you can still play it, I haven't had a problem playing the game solo, but it definitely just feels like you want to be playing multiplayer. Especially when it gets to the end game. I can't imagine like grinding solo. That would probably be a bit annoying. I would definitely prefer to grind with other players. But yeah, if you're like someone that just really enjoys Platinum Games combat, you really enjoy character action game combat, and this, like, you just, I don't know. If maybe you do want a live service game. For me, I'm not a big fan of live service games. Like I said at the beginning of this video, I said I make exceptions. So this is a game I'm making an exception for. In general, I don't play live service games, but I'm making an exception here because I enjoy the Platinum combat. I enjoyed the character action game combat that this game offers. So I would say if you like Platinum game combat and you like character action game combat, this game is worth looking into. If you're here for like an overall package experience, then you're going to be pretty disappointed. But there's also a demo, so I highly recommend playing the demo. In the full game, there's more expansive stuff than what you'll see in the demo, but the demo does give you a good taste of all the components in this game, I feel. Like, you get to fight like a giant boss in the demo, you get to fight a variety of mini bosses or mid-sized bosses or smaller bosses. You get to do stages that are short, you get to do the longer stages with more platforming, you get to do stages with environmental effects and hazards. So the game gives you a little taste of all the things that you're going to see in the full game. In the full game, you're going to see bigger and more dynamic versions of what you see in the demo, but the demo still gives you like a good taste of a little taste of everything. So definitely play the demo. If you like the demo, go for the full game. Honestly, I don't think this game is as bad as people are saying. I think it's just people were expecting something different. That's the biggest problem I feel that this game is having, is a lot of people just didn't expect the final product that we got. What we got as the final product and what this game looked like it was going to be when it was first announced is like night and day. So I think a lot of the problems people have with this game really just comes down to stuff like that. Like, people just didn't get the game that they were expecting. But I don't actually think this game is necessarily bad at what it's doing. You know, if you think about games like Avengers, Godfall, Genshin Impact, other live service games. So let's look at Godfall. Godfall launched. It didn't have multiplayer, or it didn't have like multiplayer except unless you were like people were on your friends list and you were like linking up that way. You couldn't just like search for multiplayer games and stuff. You know, like Godfall in general just didn't have very much content at launch. Even now, Godfall still is kind of lackluster in certain ways. So this game comparatively has a lot of the things that Godfall was completely missing at launch and still missing over a year later. There's Avengers. I think a lot of you know about Avengers. Avengers was a game where I enjoyed the combat, but everything else besides the combat in Avengers is bad, and it's still bad even after like more than a year. Um, Avengers is still lackluster in a lot of categories. I feel like Babylon's Fall actually launched comparatively better than a lot of these other live service games have. You know, a lot of the best live service games right now were not good when they launched. They only became good over time. There was like Genshin Impact as well. Now, Genshin Impact is sort of a weird case because it was clearly a popular game, but when the game first launched, especially in the first few months, like people were like really suspect about the content that was coming because they were very tight-lipped about what content was coming, when it was coming. And so far, the content roadmap for this game is much more visible, and it's coming much quicker than what content comes in Genshin Impact. So even though Genshin Impact could be considered a successful and popular and good live service game, it still did have faults in that department. And so far, Babylon's Fall doesn't feel like it's going to have those faults. So I really have to say that even though people are giving this game a lot of flack, it's actually they're very smart. Like, Platinum is like incredibly smart. They've seen where other live service games have dropped the ball, and they're not doing that same thing. They have a content roadmap. They're interacting with their community. They're making changes based on feedback. You know, like Platinum is not making the mistakes that every single other developer is making when it comes to their live service game. They are actually paying very close attention to everything we are saying, and they're being very transparent about this game's development, the content coming, and so on. So I actually give them big props to that. That makes me want to actually support the game even more because it's only going to get better, you know. It's if you don't like it now, you know, I don't know if it's going to get better enough to change that, but the game's only going to keep getting better, and Platinum is going to keep working hard. You know, they're the type of developer that's definitely going to make sure that they do whatever they can do to make sure this turns into a good game. So I think this game actually has a pretty promising future, and I'm actually very happy that they've been so transparent in terms of the content roadmap and all that stuff. Anyways, that's pretty much it. Let me just pull up the actual game real quick. I know I haven't even been showing the game off, but let's actually pull up the game and just talk about the game a little bit. You know, you can go watch my other gameplay videos and stuff, and there's a lot of gameplay already up that you can look at, but I just want to go over a few things real quick. So one of the things that's really interesting in this game is that you can equip up to 4 weapons, and you equip them to a different button. So on square and triangle is going to be like your actual main hand weapons that you physically use. So square is your light attack button, triangle is your heavy attack button, and then L2 and R2 is going to be your spectral weapon. So basically these weapons act independently of your character. Like, you can be swinging the sword, you can be shielding with the spectral weapon while you're charging with your hammer in your hand. So that's pretty cool. This is like one of the things that makes this combat kind of have some reminiscence of other Platinum games like Astral Chain and such, and it makes this game stand out from other games. And it's like one of the most fun components of this combat is being able to mix up all these different weapons on different buttons, and some of the weapons you use with the character and some of the weapons act independently of your character. So you can sort of do these really interesting setups that don't, like, quite frankly, have never existed in another action game before. So what do I mean by that? You can be like charging up your hammer, you can be parrying an enemy's attack while you're charging your hammer, and you can be slashing with your other sword through the use of the spectral mechanic. So definitely go check out some of my gameplay clips in that. I don't really feel like going too much into detail of the gameplay here, but I just really wanted to talk about this certain discourse and my opinion on that. Maybe I will do like some actual gameplay guides, like talking about how to use specific weapons. I've been using the hammer a lot, so maybe I'll do like a guide on the different weapon types and stuff like that. So definitely look forward to that, and let me know if you guys have any certain things you want me to talk about in this game in the future. But yeah, I actually like this game a lot. I played the demo. I liked the demo. I spent $100 to play early access. I don't regret it. I think it's a good game. It's definitely flawed, and a lot of the complaints going around are genuine. They're genuine complaints, but it really just comes down to, like, what are you looking for? Like, what are you looking for in the game at the end of the day? For me, I just wanted fun game. I just wanted fun combat. I wanted that fun, flavorful platinum theme combat, and that's what I got here. That's all I wanted. I don't care if their production values are not exactly as good as they could have been. I don't care if the story sucks. I don't care if the game ended up being a live service game instead of like a single player action game. For me, I don't care, because I got what I needed, which was platinum game action combat. So you just really have to ask yourself what you want out of this game, what you want out of a game, and what you want out of this game, and if this game has it. Because if you're someone like me that just wants that platinum game combat, then you'll probably enjoy this game quite a bit. If you're someone that was looking for like a more engaging overall experience or a single player experience, then this game is not going to deliver in that regard. Anyways, drop any comments, questions, whatever you have. Thank you for watching. Peace.